Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then my name is Chloe and usually I film videos all to do with reselling online, usually eBay. Today's video is a bit of a different one. I have been gone for a while off YouTube. I have had some health problems. I didn't want to just jump back into YouTube straight away without explaining where I've been, because I didn't think that was fair, and also like things might be a little bit different. I don't really know where to start. This is kind of a strange video to film. My last video that I did was about 6 weeks ago, and that was also a update video, like a health update video, and if you've already watched that, things have changed. Things have got worse, quite a lot worse. A lot has happened since then. If you haven't watched that and you want to, I'll leave it linked up there probably, but I'll explain everything in this video anyway. First off, I'm just gonna explain what the condition, like the illness I have, is called. Basically, I have been diagnosed with an illness called Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, which means my body produces too much fluid, like spinal fluid, which is called CSF. It produces too much, which then causes pressure around my brain and around my eyes, which causes like crippling headaches, and it has also caused, there's like lots of other side effects with it, like a lot of nausea, vomiting, headaches like you wouldn't believe, like headaches that painkillers just don't touch, constant pressure in my head, like it feels like my head's about to explode sometimes. It feels like my head is a balloon. It's the best way of describing it, like it's going to pop. It's also caused like memory, like short-term memory loss. I think trying to film a video is going to be quite difficult, because when I'm speaking, sometimes I just can't find the words when I'm speaking, and you might notice that in this video, so I do apologise if that's a little bit irritating, if I just stop what I'm saying randomly, because I just trail off and I forget what I'm saying in the middle of a sentence. Also, the main issue is my vision, and I did say this in my previous video, that my peripheral vision had really deteriorated. That has got worse, quite a lot worse, so bad that we had to decide what to do very quickly. I stayed in hospital for a week, beginning of May, and that was in my last video. When I came out of that hospital, I filmed that video. We thought that was it. We thought I was on medication, and my body was that medication was gonna help reduce the amount of fluid that my body produced, and my pressure was gonna come down, and we thought that was it. Nobody really explained the illness to me. Nobody explained what to expect, and nobody actually explained what would happen if things got worse. I didn't know surgery was an option. I do now. But yeah, I came home for a week in the middle of May, and then at the end of May I had a really bad couple of days. I had a day where I was vomiting probably like every half an hour. Even if I wasn't eating or drinking, I was still vomiting. I was really, really unwell. The pressure was really bad. The headaches were really bad. So I went to a different hospital, a hospital that had the right people to see me, because the previous hospital that I went to was a lot smaller. So I went to a bigger hospital on the 29th of May, and I had no idea that I was going to be in for so long, and I had no idea what was ahead of me. But yeah, I went in that day. I got put, but yeah, sorry. Let's start that bit again. Went in on the 29th of May. I had a slight temperature on arrival. No other COVID symptoms at all, like no cough, no struggle with my breathing or anything like that. I just had a slight temperature on arrival that was coming down with paracetamol. Now, we hadn't checked my temperature at home. I've been unwell at home, but we assumed that it was to do with my condition, and we assumed that it was to do with the drugs that they put me on, because they are really harsh drugs and the side effects in the beginning are quite strong. So we thought it was a medication in the beginning. They were taking my temperature throughout the day, and the paracetamol was bringing it down. It wasn't a really high temperature, it was just slightly elevated. I then got moved on to a ward, like midnight that night. They admitted me on the Saturday. I went in, midnight that night I got put onto a ward. Because they thought that I was negative for COVID. I had a COVID test and I got moved onto a ward, only to have a phone call the next morning. The ward got a phone call, not me. And there was a massive panic, and the room that I was in got, like, all the doors got closed, and we all got told to put masks on, and nobody was allowed to come into our room. And then I got moved to an isolation room, and I got told that I tested positive for COVID. And obviously everything else that was going on, that was just ridiculous. But I was feeling okay. Like, I wasn't super unwell. Like, I was feeling unwell in general, but I thought that was due to the IIH, like the hypertension, and the medication. We didn't think that it was due to COVID. I then got told that I'd be in isolation. Obviously, I'd be staying in hospital for 10 days because I'd need to be in this isolation room for 10 days. Then I got told that I needed something called a field vision test to test the peripheral vision. And the ophthalmologist, I don't think I pronounced that word right, I cannot pronounce that word, that the eye department basically wouldn't accept me because I just tested positive for COVID. Obviously, I couldn't go down to that department. So they refused all day. They were like, no, we can't do it. But this is the only way to test how bad it was. Like, they needed this. And if I failed this test, then they had to intervene, like, a different way. So my neurologist actually went down there in person and said that something needed to be done because I needed this test urgently. So in the end, they ended up moving all the equipment up to my room for me, which I am forever grateful for, because if I didn't have this test, they wouldn't have moved quick enough and I may have lost my sight. They all came up in, like, head to toe in PPE and lugged this really heavy equipment up, like, through the hospital, and rearranged my tiny little room so it'd fit in. And I'm so grateful to my neurologist and to the rest of the team that did it, because if they hadn't have done that and they'd left it longer, then it may have been too late. But I failed that test. I failed the vision test, and basically the nerves, my optic nerves and the discs at the back of my eyes they were extremely swollen. It's called a papilledema, and they needed something pretty quick. They needed to act really quickly. Usually if you've got IIH, usually they will prescribe medication. There's a couple of different medications they can use, and usually they will tell you to lose weight. Now, neither of those would have been quick enough to save my eyesight. So I got told I needed surgery, and surgery for this condition is fitting a VP shunt. I can't remember exactly what the VP stands for. I will write it along the bottom. A VP shunt gets fitted into the ventricle in your brain. So it's brain surgery. essentially. Now this all happened really quickly and it was a massive shock, and obviously I wanted to save my eyesight, so I agreed to everything. But being told one day I had COVID and then the next day that I needed brain surgery was all a lot. But yeah, they place a valve into your head with a tube, and the tube goes into your ventricle in your brain. They drill a hole into your skull and it goes into your skull and into the ventricle, and then there's a valve on the outside that sits on the outside of your skull, and the tube goes down the neck, down the chest, and into my abdomen, and they have to cut open the abdomen as well to make sure that the tube is in the right place. So basically I had an incision, a wound in my abdomen and my head that both had to heal at the same time, which was great fun. And basically this tube, it redirects the spinal fluid that builds up in your head, and you absorb it into your abdomen. Your abdomen absorbs the excess fluid, basically. So this was on the Monday that I had all these tests done, and then by Thursday it was surgery day. They ummed and ahed over the surgery because I was COVID positive, and anaesthetic has a bad effect on COVID and your breathing and your lungs when you have COVID. So there was a lot of back and forth as to whether it was a good idea for me to go under anaesthetic, but they weighed up the risks and the benefits, and the benefits outweighed the risks, basically, because it was either they didn't do it and I went blind, or they did it and there was a risk of the COVID worsening but it saved my eyesight. My COVID was very, very mild at the beginning. When I went in and I tested positive, I was asymptomatic. I didn't have any symptoms. Now, I had my surgery done on the Thursday. I came out of surgery. From the Thursday to the Monday, I can't really remember much of what happened then. I can't really remember anything, to be honest with you. After that first lot of surgery, I was on oxygen for most of that weekend. My body didn't react very well to the anaesthetic because I had COVID. It clashed with the COVID. I was lucky it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it did put a spanner in the works. As we go further along in this, you'll understand why. So I was kept on oxygen, I think, until Saturday afternoon or evening, and then I was allowed off the oxygen on Sunday. I had a CT scan to check my shunt placement, and my surgeon came and told me that my shunt surgery had failed and that it was in the wrong place. And when he told me that it had failed, by this point I'd already been in hospital for over a week, and I thought this was it. I thought that, you know, I'd be in there another week to recover and to get over my isolation for COVID, and so much had happened in this 1 week in hospital. Like, he told me that it had failed, and I can't remember anything else from this weekend, but I can remember how that felt when he told me it had failed and how difficult that was to accept. So they needed to redo it, basically. They needed to do a revision. They needed to move. It wasn't in the right place in the ventricle. I'm not sure what happened during the surgery, but it wasn't taking the fluid down. It was blocked up there somehow. So on the Monday, I needed to go for a chest x-ray because they needed to redo this surgery, which means I needed to be under anaesthetic again. However, obviously the previous anaesthetic had worsened my COVID symptoms. So I needed to go for a chest x-ray to see how my lungs were doing, because I'd been on more oxygen than they'd anticipated. My oxygen levels weren't very good. And by Monday morning, my x-ray had been booked for Monday afternoon. By Monday morning, I was back on the oxygen. I'd come off it at some point on Saturday, by Monday morning I was back on oxygen. And they took me down to my x-ray, they wheeled me down in my bed, and this is where I can like remember more things, as of like that weekend kind of disappeared. I can't really remember it. I think I spent most of it asleep, to be honest, that's probably why. And I went down for my x-ray, and then I came back up and I was told that my lungs were, one in particular, I don't know which one, was extremely cloudy. So it'd be dangerous to have any anaesthetic. And then, so nobody told me what was going on though, nobody told me what was going to happen. And then a few hours later, it was probably about 5-6 p.m, I had 2 theatre nurses come into my room and tell me that they were taking me down to theatre. And my operation was scheduled for this day, but I thought it'd been cancelled because my chest x-ray obviously had come back not good. And they wheeled me down to theatre, and I thought I was having my shunt revised. I thought maybe they've spoke about it and they've decided that it's okay. But I was really confused as to what was going on. And I remember lying in theatre. They hadn't put me on a theatre bed or anything. I was on my own bed, so I was really confused. And the anaesthetist was there, and my surgeon was there, and the rest of the team was there, and people were like just in and out, and they were talking to me. And I asked what was going on, because I explained to my anaesthetist how sick I was after the first lot of like anaesthetic, and he was like, oh, you're not having a full dose of anaesthetic this time, you're not having that, so it's going to be fine. And I said, well, you can't, what? I was like, you can't do brain surgery without anaesthetic. So I asked what they were doing, and they told me that they weren't doing my shunt revision, and that they were going to fit something else called a lumbar drain. Now, no one had come to tell me about this. There was a massive miscommunication. Basically, it had been a really last minute decision that my surgeon wanted to do the surgery. My anaesthetist had said no, not a chance, because her lungs are in a really bad way and it would be too risky, and it's a really bad idea to give her any anaesthetic, and he wasn't happy for me to have anaesthetic. So a last minute decision had been made to fit me with a lumbar drain, which is it's basically a tube that goes into your spine. Say these are your sorry, the words just disappear. Vertebrae, there you go. These are your vertebrae. The tube will go in between, like a needle will go in between, and a tube will stay inserted. And then it came out of my back and into a bag, and it had like a little tap on it. So I got told this like 5 minutes before it was happening. I wasn't put under general anaesthetic. I was given local anaesthetic, like for a normal lumbar puncture, which I've had several of those now. And I was also sedated, so I was awake. Now, forgive me, I might be wrong here, but I'm not sure what they give you, but it's like a mask, almost like when you're in labour, like you have gas and air. But I'm not sure exactly what it is. But I had that, and I remember the surgery nurse was amazing. I was in absolute floods of tears because it all happened so fast and I was so scared. The theatre nurse, was amazing. She held my hand the whole way through, and if I could find her now to thank her, I'd love to. I'd love to thank her for how she was just so supportive. She made it so much easier. But yeah, they did all that and they fitted this lumbar drain, and then I ended up having this lumbar drain for 2 weeks. So after I'd already been in for a week, this was another 2 weeks on top, because I had to wait for my lungs to calm down. Basically, I wasn't allowed to have my shunt revised. I needed the lumbar drain to drain the fluid. So every hour I got moved to a special care unit. Not because of my condition, not because I was really unwell. I was able to get up and about, and after a few days after I'd had this drain fitted, I was able to get out of bed on my own and things like that. but I needed specially trained nurses to deal with the lumbar drain to make sure it was drained properly, because if you drain too much, obviously it could have caused me issues, and if you don't drain enough, same thing. So I had 10 millilitres of fluid drained every hour, I think it was, and that's consistent throughout the night as well. But this drain, it's just like a tube that came out of my skin. They had to staple it to my back, which was really unpleasant because I was awake and I felt the pressure of them and I heard the staples. I didn't feel any pain, but that was really unpleasant. And then it was fixed to like there was a bag of fluid. I'll insert a picture actually of the fluid that was coming out of my back. I'll put it up there. And it was on like a drip stand, so I wheeled it around with me when I needed to go to the toilet and things like that. And it just came with me everywhere. For 2 weeks it came with me everywhere. I hated it. It was horrible. It was painful. It was just awful. But after those 2 weeks, it was time to reoperate. So it was a revision. And this time it meant they didn't need to go back in to my stomach. So they didn't need to, because that was all fine. That was down there. That didn't need moving. They just needed to move it up here because it wasn't in the right place, basically. And they needed to move the tip back into the right place. So I don't think the revision takes very long. I think it's like an hour to an hour and a half to like move it. But it meant I had to shave like half my head again and go back in, and I had to heal then from that again. And that was on, when did I've got notes here, sorry. That was on Monday, the 21st of June that I had that revision. And then by the Friday, the 25th of June, it was home time. I'd been in hospital about 4 weeks by this point, so I was so over the moon to come home. It was a shock once I had got home, how much my body hurt and how little I could do. I'd been pretty much bedridden apart from going to the toilet with help most of the time for 4 weeks. I was so wobbly on my feet. I could barely move on my own. I couldn't sleep properly because obviously I had a big wound in my head. I will put actually, I'm going to put some pictures here. I will put at the top, if you are squeamish and you do not like cuts or blood, please skip. Just skip ahead a little bit because you're not going to want to see it. At the top I will put my first surgery. I had clips or staples, and then down here is after my revision. So those were the states straight after surgery. As you can see, not very nice, and I had to try and sleep, and you can see how much hair they took off as well. Like, my hair's grown back quite well. I'll show you actually in a minute. But yeah, coming home and trying to sleep with that was really, really painful. And my stomach as well, like I had like 11 staples in my stomach as well. But yeah, it really shocked me how much it took to get over this amount of surgery. And because having a shunt fitted is usually doesn't take your body that long to get over it, but I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because you can't find very much information about this online. Like, you can, but it's all just the same information. I've joined a few Facebook groups now, which I've found really helpful because it's people that are going through the same thing. Because I'd never heard of this condition, like this illness, before I got diagnosed with it. It's really under-researched. It's not very well known. So it's kind of potluck how you're treated. I'm very lucky. I mean, I'm not lucky in the fact that I lost my sight, but I'm very lucky that I got a shunt fitted so early, because I know of people that have waited years and years and can't get a shunt fitted. It's hopefully it's not going to take very long for me to recover from this. I'm still in a lot of pain every day. Where the tubing goes down into my stomach, it causes me a lot of pain, like a lot of pain. I don't know whether that is the tubing. It could be, I spoke to my surgeon, it could be that it's touching my gut, like my intestines. It could be that it's just the scar tissue down there, or it could be when it's releasing the fluid, when the fluid drains, that my organs just really don't like that. But yeah, it's been really difficult. I've been in since as well. I had to have another lumbar puncture. When was it? When was that? It was last week, last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, I went in for an eye test and another field vision test, and I failed that again. My eyesight had got even worse than it was, and so they admitted me, and I waited on a waiting room chair for 12 hours to get a bed. I finally got a bed at 11 p.m. at night, and then one of the registrars that worked with my surgeon, who helped do the surgery with him, came in at 11:30 at night and told me he was doing a lumbar puncture, which was just great. So he did one there and then, and he did it to test that the shunt was working, to test my, like, the pressure, the opening pressure, which I'm not going to go into that too much because that's just opening a whole can of worms, trying to explain all that. But yeah, it basically proved there was no infection, which is great. The shunt's working, great. We don't know why my eyesight is still deteriorating. I have another eye test in 2 weeks' time, so fingers crossed it's a bit better then. But yeah, I was going to show you my hair. I've managed, luckily, where it is, and because my hair's so long, I've managed to get enough hair over to, because I thought I was gonna have to shave it all off, but luckily I've managed to do it enough that I can put it into a ponytail without being able to tell. But they have taken a lot of hair. I was so upset in the beginning about the amount of hair. It has healed now, so, well, it's mainly healed. There's nothing yucky there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but yeah, they've taken a lot. Let me move the camera a little bit. There is a lump there. That lump there is my valve, and that lump is going to stay there, unfortunately, because that is a valve under my skin, and that does get quite sore. But luckily, I've managed to find a way to keep my hair, which is great. I can't wear it down because there's, like, you can see at the back, because there's a good portion of my hair that they've shaved off. But yeah, that's for now, that's where we're at. So in the space of since I spoke to you in my last video, like 6 weeks ago, I've had 2 lots of brain surgery, a lumbar drain for 2 weeks, which was probably one of the worst things, really, out of all of it, COVID, and lost more vision. But hopefully we're on the right track now. This is something that I am now going to be living with for the rest of my life. There isn't any cure for this. Hopefully between me and my neurologist, we'll find medication that works for me. I'm on some at the minute, but my liver's not very happy about it, unfortunately. And it's also, I can still feel a lot of pressure in my head, and my eyes are still really bad, obviously, so something's not working yet. We need to figure it out, but it's a lengthy process. But fingers crossed, we'll find a solution or something that works for me. As far as eBay is concerned, because that is what I do, that is what my channel is about, it is reselling. I have left it alone for weeks. I put my shop on holiday mode, and I hid all my listings because I didn't want to deal with it. I will do a sales video from what sold after I opened my shop. It's not very much, but just to show you guys what kind of things I have sold since and how it's affected my shop. I've not done any new listings yet. Oh no, sorry, I've done 4. I've done 4 new listings of photos that I already had taken on my phone, and I've done a few measurements. That is the only work I've done in the past 6 weeks. And I am excited to get back into it, but I also need to give my body a chance to heal, because at the end of the day, that is so much more important. And I don't really know how I'm going to go about sourcing stock, because I can't be out in public at the minute because I can't see. I can't go out on my own. I could go out with my fiance, but the kids are on summer holidays now, so we'd have to go out, just the 2 of us, when we've got childcare for the kids. But yeah, it's the thought of going out gives me massive anxiety, and I get really worried about it because I can't see who's standing next to me. I can't see people walking past me, and it's quite scary. I'm sure once I get used to it, it won't be so scary, but for now it is. But yeah, so I'm looking online to source stock. If you've got any ideas of how I can source stock, please leave those ideas in the comments. I don't really want to buy vintage online again because it doesn't sell very quickly for me, but we'll see. I'll figure it out somehow. I'm going to leave this video here because it's over a half an hour long and I didn't want to ramble on, but all I've done is ramble on. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the support. If you are still subscribed to my channel, even though I haven't put a video out for ages, thank you so much. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate that as well. I will be putting up more videos now. I just didn't want to throw myself straight back into it without an explanation. I might not be putting out so many videos because I'm not going to be sourcing very much at the minute, so I can't really do haul videos, but I'll figure something out. I will be putting some, I'm going to be back on YouTube now, it just probably won't be as frequent. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everybody. Thank you.